What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the Ruiz versus Miller breakdown and prediction video. As Andy Ruiz Jr., the former unified heavyweight champion of the world, is set to return after a 2-year layoff on the August 3rd Crawford versus Madrimov undercard when he takes on Jerrell Big Baby Miller in a big-time heavyweight showdown between the two. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, if you haven't seen my breakdown videos before, we get into, you know, what I do is I discuss the fight, what it means, all that kind of stuff. That's the first thing I do. Then I get into each fighter individually. In a straight up contenders bout like this, we go with the A side and then the B side. A side in this fight would be Andy Ruiz, so we'll discuss him first when we get into it individually. So, you know, that's what goes on there. You know, we do that. Then I ask the same questions individually on both sides. You know, starting with Ruiz into Miller, and then I ask one final question, and then I give my prediction at the end of the video. So let's get into this heavyweight attraction right here. Excuse me. You know, I don't know how much people are looking forward to this one. I think it's significant because you have two heavyweights with that are big names in their own way. Andy Ruiz earned that right with the upset of Anthony Joshua. He's been a big name since. You can definitely sell fights with Andy Ruiz's name now because of the upset and the two fights that he had with Anthony Joshua. Jerrell Big Baby Miller just talks a ton of shit. I mean, he was an undefeated heavyweight on a roll before you know, he tested positive for PEDs. He was actually about to get his title shot, and ironically that was when Andy Ruiz took his place and fought Anthony Joshua and upset him. So interesting all these years later how they come back come back and they are fighting each other. It's a very interesting turn of events. And it's been a very interesting 5+ years since that ordeal went down for both fighters. But whether you think this is a very big fight or not, it is a big fight, and it has significance towards the heavyweight division moving forward. You know, neither one of these guys might land a title shot next, but their name recognition will get them a big heavyweight opponent next, one way or the other. And it's going to be interesting to see who can pull off this very intriguing heavyweight battle right here. So let's start with the A side, the former unified heavyweight champion of the world, Andy Ruiz Jr., and take a look at him first. Now, what has he done rolling into this fight? Now, as we usually do, I'm going to go into his last 3 fights that date back to December of 2019 when he fought Anthony Joshua in their rematch, when he defended the unified heavyweight title and lost it to Anthony Joshua when he went to Saudi Arabia and got just completely outboxed and outworked in that rematch. Joshua, you know, just out-hustled him, wasn't going to let another upset happen. And Ruiz, who was clearly more out of shape in the rematch than he was in the first fight, just couldn't figure out Joshua in the rematch and dropped the belts in a pretty one-sided decision. He would return in, I think he didn't come back until 2021 when he took on Chris Arreola, and he came in a heavy favorite in that fight. He had lost a bunch of weight, and he got hurt in that fight against Arreola. It was an interesting battle. I even think he got put down, and he somehow pulled off a close but controversial decision victory to capture, push forward and get a return victory. But then in September of 2022, he would take on Luis Ortiz in a long-awaited fight. It was for the WBC interim title, and he would score 3 official knockdowns on Ortiz, even though 2 of them are very questionable. One for sure shouldn't have been ruled a knockdown. Those 3 helped him win that fight by a unanimous decision, but I really think he got outworked and outboxed in that fight. But 3 official knockdowns can get you a victory, and somehow he got out of there with the win and stayed, and put himself on par for a potential world title shot. But he has not fought since then. By the time this fight takes place in August, he's going to be out of the ring pretty much 23 full months in between fights. And so coming in, I mean, I'm sure he's hungry, but I don't know what he's hungry for. If it's for more cheeseburgers or whatever, I don't know, because he has not been in the ring. And to come back right now and take on a guy, Big Baby Miller, I don't know. It's a risk, and I don't think he's built up any kind of confidence to be really 150% ready for this. And I could be wrong. He could be 150% ready, but it's tough to bounce back after a 2-year layoff and look good. And he's given up 2 inches in height, I think 4 inches in reach, and and Miller's gonna outweigh him by quite a bit, likely. And it's gonna be interesting to see how these 2 butterball guys do against each other. Ruiz, though, has been wildly inactive, so I don't know how he's going to be able to handle the size, height, reach, and also the ring rust all at the same time. Going to be difficult. Now, how does Andy Ruiz beat Jerrell Big Baby Miller? He's going to have to get on the inside. He's going to have to use his punches sparingly. And he's going to have to be the guy that moves in this fight. If he can be on his toes, move more, outwork Jerrell Miller, I think he has a chance of beating him. Now, can Andy Ruiz win this fight by knockout? I think he can. I don't know if Ruiz can one-punch hurt Jerrell Miller, though. Jerrell Miller has a good-ass chin. I think Ruiz would have to wear down Miller, hopefully, and hope Miller's not in the best of shape. Wear him down, take him into deep waters, and stop him in the late rounds off of an accumulation of punches. But that's how I could see him winning this fight by knockout. Can Andy Ruiz win a decision? I think he can win a decision. I think he could outwork Miller and outpoint him by a close to maybe a deserving decision. Now, what is a win, or what's more likely if Andy Ruiz wins? Knockout or a decision? Honestly, I think a decision's more likely. I'm having trouble seeing Andy Ruiz knock out Jerrell Miller. I think Jerrell Miller just can take a good punch, and I just see it being more likely that Ruiz gets a decision than a knockout over Miller. Okay, so what does a win mean for Andy Ruiz Jr.? A win means a lot. If he beats him, it puts him right in line for a potential title shot in 2025 or a big fight against a top tier heavyweight. That's what a win means for Andy Ruiz, because he's got a big name and guys are going to want to fight him because he has that big name. And a victory, especially a convincing win, will really put him in the driver's seat, put him into something in 2025 that he really would want. What does a loss mean for Andy Ruiz? depending on how he loses, a loss could be all she wrote. This really is a crossroads fight for both guys. But a loss, and a decisive loss, really, I don't know if Ruiz is going to want to fight again after that. Especially if he gets knocked out. I think it's going to be tough to see how Ruiz bounces back, if he's going to have the fire, the drive, all that stuff to come back and make another run following a convincing loss. Now, if he loses a close fight or something like that, I see it more viable that he comes back, especially after a 2-year layoff. He might say, well, hey, if it wasn't 2 years, I would have beat this guy. You know, I want a rematch, or I want to come back and fight the top competition. I think that's possible, so we'll see. Now we switch over to the underdog, the contender, Jerrell Big Baby Miller, and take a look at him. His last 3 fights date back to, I think it was last year, or it might have been 2022. He got a 6th round knockout win, then returned against Lucas Big Daddy Brown last year, and got a 4th round knockout win over Lucas Brown, and then returned in December to fight Daniel Dubois, and came in nearly 90 pounds heavier than Dubois. But Dubois would just outwork him, would hit him with big shots, would wear down Miller. Miller stayed on his toes, kept fighting, kept putting the pressure on, kept trying to land a big shot to end it. He finally got stopped with about 10-15 seconds left in the 10th round, and suffered the first loss of his career. But he fought hard, even though he was wildly out of shape. He has not fought since last December. So rolling into this fight, I think he is motivated to come in better shape and make sure that he does not lose a second consecutive fight. That's what I think his goal is to come in and make sure that he wins this fight and shuts a lot of people up in the process. I think that's what he wants to do. I think he wants big fights moving forward, and I think he's coming for a victory. I do believe he's hungry to try to get a victory and punch a ticket towards something bigger in 2025. Now, what does Jerrell Miller need to do to win this fight over Andy Ruiz? And I'm going to be real. I think he needs to use the 2-inch height and the 4-inch reach advantage. If he's in better shape, I think he needs to use both of those to not just make it a pure slugfest. I think if he turns himself into the boxer puncher in this, because he has the height and reach advantage, if he jabs, if he keeps Andy Ruiz at bay and doesn't let him wear down his body, I think Jerrell Miller has a good chance of winning this fight. Now, can Miller win this fight by knockout? And my answer is yes. Miller's got that one-punch kind of power, and I also think he's got the kind of power to hurt Andy Ruiz late and stop him. So yes, I do believe he can win this fight by knockout. Can Jerrell Miller win this fight by a decision? And that's another yes. I think he can outwork Andy Ruiz with the height and reach advantage, and I think he can win this fight by a decision. Now, what's more likely for Miller over Ruiz? If Miller gets a victory, is a knockout more likely or a decision more likely? Well, with these two guys both being, bigger heavyweights, I'm assuming it's going to be a 10-round fight. I think it's close to 50-50, but to be honest, I think a knockout for Miller is probably more likely than a decision here. I think it's going to be tough to see a final bell, even though I can see this fight going to distance. Now, what did I say? What is more likely? As I said, a knockout, I think. Now, what does a win mean for Jerrell Big Baby Miller here? A win means a lot. A win punches his ticket towards something bigger. It really does. He needs a victory. This is a good time. He's getting older, and he wants to get those big fights, and this would be the start of that. Knocking off a former unified heavyweight champ would be a big deal for Jerrell Miller, and a win would mean everything. Now, what does a loss mean for Miller? It would depend on how he loses. If he loses a close decision, then I think it's kind of the Dubois angle, where if he's in better shape, he can be competitive. He's just not a top tier guy, which is going to get him opportunities against other guys because he'll be a consummate gatekeeper after that, which is a good role. It'll make being a gatekeeper is not a bad deal, especially in a heavyweight division, because it can make you more money. And I think, you know, that's not a bad role for Miller, but a loss probably takes him out of any serious discussions. You know, a win builds him back towards that, but a second consecutive loss could hurt Miller. So, you know, a loss definitely hurts him. A close loss, and I still think people maybe don't take him as serious. So a win, it means a ton to Jerrell Miller. So now we've asked the same questions on both sides. Here's my final question. Is it better for boxing if Andy Ruiz wins this fight, or is it better for boxing if Jerrell Miller wins this fight? To be honest, I think it's 50-50. I really do. I think it's good for boxing if Andy Ruiz wins, and I think it's good for boxing if Jerrell Miller wins. Here's the key. I think whoever wins this fight, a decisive victory, knockout or decision, but particularly a knockout, would mean significantly more for the winner and for the heavyweight division. So that's what I think is worth more. Whoever wins this fight, it's better for boxing if they win decisively and more to the point by knockout. So we'll see. And finally, what's my prediction for this big time heavyweight showdown right here between former unified champ Andy Ruiz and the hard-hitting Jerrell Big Baby Miller? I personally think Andy Ruiz is done. I think he's past it. He can prove me wrong, but he has the same kind of style. I don't think he's really going to try to switch it up. I think he's going to have trouble keeping a bigger Jerrell Miller off of him. I think Miller's going to have target practice and hit him with some good shots. And I don't think Ruiz is going to be able to overwhelm Jerrell Miller. It's been a long time since Ruiz has been a legitimate heavyweight contender. Luis Ortiz was an older fighter when they fought, and I don't believe he won that fight, even though he still has fast hands that can catch a guy. But I think Jerrell Miller has a very good chin. I think he packs a good punch, and I think he's going to be able to land the bigger shots and knock out Andy Ruiz sometime in the middle rounds after wearing him down and bounce back from the Daniel Dubois loss. So, do I think Andy Ruiz stands a chance? Absolutely. You know, Ruiz is he's a tough guy. He's been there. He's done that. He's a former world champion. I think he knows what it takes. And if he's in good conditioning and the reflexes are there, you never know. But I'm picking Jerrell Miller by knockout in the middle rounds in this heavyweight clash. And that's it. That's what I got. That is my Andy Ruiz versus Jerrell Miller breakdown and prediction video, as they will collide Saturday, August 3rd on DAZN and Amazon Prime pay-per-view on the Terrence Crawford, Israel Madrimov undercard. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been here with the truth.